What's good, YouTube? This is Boxingwave, and we are back with another fight breakdown. This weekend live on ESPN Plus, Saturday night. All right, Top Ring promoted. Teofimo Lopez is going to be facing Sandor Martin, and this is going to be for the secondary mandatory for the WBC title, which Regis Prograis just won against Jose Cepeda last weekend. All right, which means if Jose Ramirez doesn't take his mandatory opportunity to fight Regis Prograis, this is going to be the secondary mandatory. The winner of this fight is going to have a mandatory after Jose Ramirez, who's first in line for that title. All right, this is a very, very good fight. And has a very good undercard. You got a lot of fighters on the undercard. I just did the breakdown between Jared Anderson against Jerry Forrest. You also got Keyshawn Davis on the undercard, who's one of the biggest prospects in the sport right now. You also have one of the other biggest prospects, Xander Zayas, is going to be on the undercard as well. So it's a pretty good scrap. It's going to be in New York. It's going to be at the Hulu Theater. I was going to go to the fight, but because I will be covering the Terrence Crawford, David Avenetian, Black Prime fight as well, I'm not going to be able to do it, but I will be online here doing live commentary for the fight. Now, this fight here, it's a good fight. I like it a little bit better than the Jose Pedraza fight, which was supposed to be Teofimo's original opponent. All right, he pulled out of the fight a few weeks back, and Sandor Martin is replacing Teofimo Lopez. Now, I like the fight because Sandor Martin, a couple fights ago, he beat Mikey Garcia pretty clearly too. Was kind of a surprise. I remember watching the fight, didn't really think anything of it. I wasn't familiar with him. I did look up his resume. I seen that he was a fighter from Spain, fought mostly just European guys, no really top tier fighters up to this point. Has a pretty good record though, 40 wins, 13 knockouts, only 2 defeats, no draws, and didn't really think anything of it at the time, but he clearly outscored Mikey Garcia. I can't see anyone giving him any more than 2 or 3 rounds in that fight. I think Sandor Martin completely schooled Mikey Garcia. He's a southpaw fighter. He's about 5'7" in height. Not sure where his reach is at, but he's 29 years old, right? He's been a pro for 11 years. And then you got Teofimo Lopez. He's 25 years old, right? We already know the fights that he's been involved in, controversial fights. He's been in there with Lomachenko. He has a win over Lomachenko. He's been in there with George Kambosos. Has a loss to George Kambosos, his only loss. 17 wins, 1 loss with 13 KOs, no draws. But he's been in there also with guys like Nakatani, sorry about that. Richard Comey, he's been in there, knocked him out, real easy work. He's been in there with some solid fighters, and he's recently moved up to 140 and fought Pedro Campo, which was basically a tune-up against a really aggressive fighter, and he was able to get a stoppage in there, all right? So Teofimo is on the comeback. He is looking to see what he can do at 140. He's no longer fighting at 135 after the George Kambosos defeat, and now we are here. Now this fight, I like the fight because you got the southpaw who's really slick, really slippery, really super defensive fighter against the boxer puncher in Teofimo Lopez, who's also very quick, very aggressive, very powerful, okay, young, fresh, not quite as slick, but he does have some slick skills in there, some decent defensibility in there, and it's a good matchup. It's a good matchup. Sandor Martin is going to probably be looking to, pot shot, counter set traps, and just keep it moving. Whereas Teofimo is going to be looking to, work off the jab, all right, throw some some power shots in there with the right hand, throw some combinations, and he's a lot more explosive, right? So he's going to be looking to trap, or he's going to be looking to counter Sandor Martin and connect with a big shot as well. So it's a good fight. It's very intriguing. Now let's talk about the opponents. Sandor Martin has 2 losses. Like I said, The last loss he had was over 5 years ago against Anthony Yiggett. We're familiar with Yiggett. He's been around. Not a top tier world level guy, but a solid fighter. And the fight, I did watch some of the fight. It is available. Someone did record it in the arena. It's kind of far, so you can't see it that well. So I was watching a little bit of it just to see if I could point out any big flaws. And really, what I saw in the fight is that Yiggett was just more aggressive. Sandor might have not been as good, but Yiggett seemed to be more aggressive, and that's the reason why he won the fight. All right, but watching the Mikey Garcia fight, which is the fight that everybody knows of, everybody that's familiar with Sandor Martin, is because of his defeat. His win over Mikey Garcia. And in that fight there, it was more like, now that I've gone back and watched it again, it was more of him just exposing Mikey than, not that I'm trying to take credit away from Martin, because he's a good fighter and he's very good defensively. But he exposed Mikey in all of the flaws that Mikey had, right? Mikey fought a terrible fight, and what I saw in Mikey in that fight, I feel that Teo brings way more to the table than what Mikey had in that fight. I'm not talking about Mikey's career overall, but Mikey in that fight was way too predictable. He didn't change his punches up at all. He didn't change and didn't make any adjustments in the fight. He kept trying to do the same tactic over and over again. Sandor Martin was very comfortable and ready for it. Sandor Martin set traps. He backed himself into the corner and was really slippery, really quick cat-like reflexes, and was able to avoid these shots from Mikey and was able to counter Mikey with ease and skate out of danger over and over again. And Mikey did absolutely nothing to adjust it. And when I watched that fight, and then when I go to watch Teofimo Lopez against Lomachenko, who's also a southpaw, someone that's even a better defender in my opinion. Sandor is very, very good, and he's very, very slick, and he has great reflexes. But I don't think he's better than Lomachenko. He might be bigger than Lomachenko, but I don't think he's better than Lomachenko, especially on the offensive side of things. Defensive, very good, very hard to hit, like Loma, but I don't think he's better defensively, and I damn sure don't think he's better offensively. And when I saw Teofimo Lopez win that fight, because yes, I do believe he won the fight either 7 rounds to 5 or 8 rounds to 4, whatever way, Teofimo, in my opinion, clearly won the fight, right? And what I saw in that fight is Teo working behind the jab, right? A really strong, powerful, quick jab that he feinted or changed levels before throwing it. He threw a lot of them to the body, and he was doing a good job in keeping Lomachenko outside of range by using a jab, applying that jab, and applying a little bit of head control and just little like push-offs to get Lomachenko outside of his space. Teofimo Lopez did a great job in that fight. And what I saw in that fight, I feel that what Teo brought in that fight is going to be so much more than what Mikey brought to his fight to Sandor Martin. And even though Martin is good and really, really slippery on an offensive end, I don't feel like Sandor Martin can do enough. I don't think he has the firepower to match Teofimo Lopez. I think he can definitely counter him. I definitely think he can pot shot some and catch him with some good shots. But I don't think he has the firepower to go blow to blow with Teofimo or even outwork him. If Teofimo does fade in the later half of the fight, then I can see Sandor Martin jumping on some opportunities. But he's going to be so cautious naturally. I just don't think he's willing to take those kind of risks that Lomachenko took in the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, the 11th rounds. I don't think he can do that. I don't think he's just on that level. So I think Teofimo Lopez is going to come in. He's going to come out quicker. He's going to be using that jab. The jab that Mikey did not have in that fight. This is the reason why Sandor Martin looked so good in that fight, because Mikey didn't have anything. Mikey just kept coming forward and trying to land the right hand, and Sandor Martin would just dunk underneath it and then skate out of danger. he would just get right out of the corner, if not countering him. It's not going to be that easy with Teofimo Lopez, because you're going to have to worry about the right hand. You're going to keep worried about the jabs, him changing low levels, him feinting. It's not going to be so predictable. And plus, Mikey was just charging forward straight in over and over again. So he was able to slip the shots and pivot and step right and turn Mikey Garcia. Another thing is, look at the difference in their feet. Mikey was very, 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 Mikey just doesn't have the feet that Teofimo Lopez have in general. So as slippery as Sandor might be, Teofimo is the type of guy that can pivot and follow a quick, southpaw guy that's quick on his feet like Lomachenko. I don't think he's going to have too much of a problem following Sandor Martin. All right. A very slippery Sandor Martin, very slick fighter. But I think that Teofimo Lopez is capable of following him and bringing the pressure, bringing the offense straight to him. And even when Sandor Martin is quick and with those cat-like defense, the reflexes that he have, I still don't feel like overall is going to be enough to keep Teofimo away. I don't think it's going to be enough to neutralize him like the way he did with Mikey. You know what I'm saying? So I think Teofimo is definitely going to win this. I don't know about Sandor Martin's toughness. All right. I don't know if he's ever been knocked down. I know he has a couple of losses, but those losses was on decision. Now, outside of Mikey Garcia, he hasn't fought any real elite fighters. I think that's the only argument you could make about which fight was the better fight between Pedraza and Martin, because Pedraza has been in there with the punchers. He's been in there with some of the very best in the sport. Whereas Martin, he has that one win over Mikey Garcia, and it was a very good win. But at the same time, if you look at the fight and you look at how poorly Mikey Garcia fought in that fight, you can't give him too much credit, because I think guys like Teofimo Lopez would have won that fight based on that performance from Mikey. I think there's other guys at 140 that would have beat Mikey that night too. That includes Josh Taylor. That includes Regis Prograis. All right, that includes some of the other best fighters at 140. So even though Sandor Martin looked very good in capitalizing off Mikey Garcia's mistakes, I think Teofimo Lopez brings a whole different level of game to the table in this fight. And I think Teo, whether it's by decision or by knockout, I have Teofimo Lopez winning this fight. I'm probably going to bet straight up, because I don't know if Teo is going to just try to get a stoppage, or if he can get a stoppage or not. I think he's capable of giving it. I mean, he does have the power, but I don't know the toughness of Sandor Martin. There's still a lot of unknowns, and based on his resume, it's hard to really, really tell like how tough and durable he is against this caliber of a fighter. Being that Mikey does have some pop, but I don't feel like he has the explosiveness of Teofimo Lopez, at least not at this stage of his career. All right, so I have Teofimo Lopez winning the fight. Don't know how he's going to win it. I just don't think Sandor Martin can win. And even though I think Martin might give Teo some issues, it's not going to be issues that Teo hasn't seen before, because he was very recently in the ring with Lomachenko. Another point I want to bring up before I leave, I don't want to base Teo's performance against Kambosos on this fight. Two different styles, and just a poorly the way that Teofimo fought the fight, it was just a poorly strategically, it was just fought a poor fight. You could tell that him and his dad went in there and prepared to get an early knockout. That's what they prepared for, and it was just terrible preparation and terrible coaching in the corner of Teofimo Lopez during the fight. I think we moved past that. He did pick up a win since then. I think he's going to probably be a lot more disciplined for this fight, because people respect this guy going into the ring. And I think if he respects Sandor Martin, then he should be able to win. But if he's going in there, looking to charge Martin, looking to get a quick stoppage, then he's going to pay. I didn't see that in the Campa fight, which was his last fight. So I wouldn't expect it here, because Sandor Martin is more proven than Pedro Campa. All right. So I think Teofimo is going to be disciplined for the fight. So I wouldn't base the Kambosos fight, too much on this fight coming up this weekend. All right. So anyway, I should be able to do live coverage for this fight this Saturday. So I'll see you then. Be sure to check out my breakdown of Jared Anderson against Jerry Forge, which is on the undercard of this fight, and be on the lookout for the other breakdowns for Josh Warrington, Lopez, and Crawford Avanesian as well. All right, I'm out of here. Peace.